From the Oklahoma newsroom, it's time for Orange Alert, our weekly extended look at Oklahoma State football. I'm Jenni Carlson here in studio with fellow columnist Barry Tramel, OSU beat writer Scott Wright. Guys, Cowboys getting ready to head to Waco. 11 o'clock start on Saturday, FS1's the network. Scott, a whole different feel to things after what we saw a week ago against Texas. Everybody really wondering, could this team get bowl eligible? Where were the wins going to come from? This Baylor game seemed like one. But now, with that win against Texas, you wonder what more is possible. We saw some changes. What of those changes, what tops the list and what you saw differently out of the Cowboys against Texas that you feel like we could definitely see moving forward this season?
Well, it starts with the simplification of the defense, kind of scaling back what they were asking those guys to do. I think that Jim Knowles began to realize that he had put a lot on these guys' shoulders in his first year as defensive coordinator, particularly in the secondary where they're playing a lot of young guys. So you saw him be a little bit less complex on the back end. You saw him be a little bit more conservative up front, especially against Texas. That was part of the game plan, though, for Texas because they've got a running quarterback with Sam Ehlinger. But you've got to protect and fill those gaps the way that you have to do in this league. So you saw him not blitz quite as much and try to get quarterback pressure with the 3 or 4 or 5 guys that he normally likes to send toward the quarterback. So you see some simplification on that side of the ball. That I think that now they've established a good baseline where they can gradually build from here and get a little bit more in depth. But now they've got a place where everybody seems to feel comfortable and be playing a little bit faster on that side of the ball.
Barry, Scott brings up a great point about the defensive front and the pass rush. Well, any rush, really, blitzing, showing pressure, those sorts of things. That's such a position of strength for that defense with veterans and talent and depth. Are you a little surprised that even with Ehlinger not being a great passer, that they made that switch and it worked out so well that they didn't really use that defensive front to get a ton of pressure against Texas?
Yeah, I think when you continually are getting burned, you have to try something different. And good pass rushes does not mean a bunch of sacks necessarily. Good pressure means guys getting rid of the ball quicker than he wants to, throwing to receivers he doesn't want to throw to, scrambling. And Ehlinger made his share of plays with his feet, no doubt about it. But when the Cowboys were getting 5 and 6 sacks earlier in the season, some of that was against overmatched opponents. Some of that came at the expense of big plays on the offensive end. So I don't want to judge. I don't want people to judge defensive pressure just by their sacks going down. If Brailford can get after the quarterback, he doesn't have to get him on the ground to make it a successful play. So whatever Jim Knowles can dial up to limit the vulnerability of the secondary, if he can make the quarterback at least think, at least be uncomfortable while keeping a lot of pass coverage back there, that's the optimum defense for this year's Cowboys.
I got to think, Scott, too, that coming out of that Texas game, while schematically they did some things that helped the secondary, that secondary just has to feel a little bit better about itself. I mean, you don't want to put too much on, confidence, if you will. But they had seen a lot of things go sideways against them this year. And with young guys, I got to think there's at least some value in positive, not only the win, but the fact that they were able to be pretty good in the secondary, both cornerbacks and safeties.
Yeah, they absolutely were. There were a few passes that got completed down the field, but for the most part, they were in good coverage, and Ehlinger made a good throw. Receivers made good catches. So there were plays like that where they had plays covered up, but just got beat by a good play, and that's going to happen. There weren't a lot of plays where they were out of position, in poor coverage position, whatever it might be. So you definitely saw them taking steps in the right direction. A.J. Green, really one of the more veteran guys in that secondary, played a great game, mostly covering Colin Johnson on the outside, was in really good position most of the game. Got 2 pass interference penalties, one that seemed legit, one that was a little bit questionable. But you saw him in really good position throughout the game. Didn't come up with an interception, but was impacting plays, making throws difficult on Sam Ehlinger to try to get it to one of his best receivers. And that's what you need to see from this secondary, is seeing them being comfortable in the situations that they're in and being able to react to what's going on in front of them.
You know, I think for a lot of people, the most noticeable changes against Texas, Barry, came on the offensive side for Oklahoma State. We saw Taylor Cornelius under center, which still sort of makes me want to like make sure my vision is clear. They got in the I formation, 2 back sets. What of the changes on offense are you most excited to see how they fare moving forward?
I like the use of Cornelius as more of the running threat, designed running threat, not a scrambler, but as using him in that running game. And the question I have is, why not? You're talking about a 5th-year senior who's, you know, he's not coming back. He doesn't have any more eligibility. Not really a pro prospect. You're not, you know, an injury if he happens to get hurt running the ball. You're not. It's not a long-range problem for Cornelius. And you're talking about a season that's sort of on the brink. Can they make a bowl? Or at least going into the Texas game, it was on the brink, looking more promising now. So there's not a whole lot to save him for. Whatever you got in the arsenal, unload it. And he's a big, strong boy, 6'6", 235, and can run pretty good and break tackles. And you know, a quarterback who can run is a valuable weapon. So I thought that was a very encouraging. We'd seen it some before, but we saw it a lot more against Texas. 3 prime option plays where he pulls the ball and runs it for really pivotal plays. That's really going to help this OSU offense.
And that touchdown he scored over there in that corner, guys, I couldn't help think that was the same corner that the Cowboys had another touchdown run by a quarterback go the other way. That was when Sam Bradford did the cartwheel over there on that same sideline in that corner. Instead, it goes Oklahoma State's way. In addition to his running, though, Scott, we saw him really establish a connection with Thailand Wallace, a guy that's been great this season, and in most cases for the Cowboys. But now, with 10 catches, over 200 yards against the Longhorns, a really good defense, you got to think his star power and maybe even what defenses are going to do against him may start to change a little bit.
Yeah, he's going to start getting some of that James Washington treatment now from secondaries. A lot more attention coming his way, a lot more, a deep safety helping out here and there to try to limit what he can do, because he's shown that he can make catches and make plays at all 3 levels of the passing game, short, intermediate, and deep. So you're going to see him continue to draw guys away, and that's going to maybe open up things for other guys, maybe the slot receivers, maybe Tyron Johnson on the other side, maybe Jelani Woods, who's establishing himself as a legitimate passing threat. So, but Thailand Wallace really is becoming a star right before our eyes. He had a string of 100-yard games early in the season, but to go for 222 on 10 catches and a couple of crucial touchdowns against Texas in such a big game was a really impressive performance by him, and it's something that just seems to be building confidence more and more each week for this guy, and he's just going to keep getting better.
You know, I know people are talking about him in relation to James Washington, and I mean, maybe we'll get to the end of his career and we'll see the even more similarities. But Barry, is it too soon to do that? James Washington, one of the best receivers that college football has ever seen, one of the best Oklahoma State's ever seen. Are you ready to go there yet with Thailand Wallace, or is the sample size still a little small?
No, I'm ready to go. I think he's fantastic. he makes big catches in traffic. The 4th and 1, was it 33 yards? I can't remember. The 43 yards, whatever it was. The deep ball on 4th and 1 to Thailand Wallace. Cornerback's all over him. Free safety gets back there and helps out. He still comes down with the ball. He's been doing that in the middle of the field as well. He's going to be a star. He's actually already a star. I mean, he's phenomenal. I don't know if he's James Washington yet. I don't know if he's ever going to be, but he's really, really good. And I think he steps in formation very well with that lineage of great OSU receivers in this century: Rashawn Woods, Adarius Bowman, Dez Bryant, James Washington. I think it's just a great find for the Cowboys to find this guy, develop him this quickly, and let him loose upon college football.
Seems like, Scott, 2 things. One thing he talked about the other day, and another thing that we've talked about: ability to catch competitive passes, which Barry just referenced, balls that could go either way. He seems to come down with. And he talked about the other day running through the catch and trying to, not only catch it, but then keep going, accelerate through, something James Washington was unbelievable at. But if he does those 2 things, you definitely start to even think more about how he fits in that lineage of really great receivers.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's a guy that's got the skills to do it all. And like you said, if he can become even more effective on the deep ball, the way that James Washington was able to keep his speed whenever he was turning around and looking for the ball on those deep throws, and still be able to be outrunning guys and making the play the way that he could, it was phenomenal to watch. If Thailand Wallace can even somewhat replicate that and be able to become an even more dangerous threat on those deep throws like that, it's just going to make things way more difficult for defenses facing this guy for the next 3 years.
Yeah, and you wonder, does this change things for what we see out of Tyron Johnson, Dylan Stoner, some of these guys that are Landon Wolf? Could those guys be on the verge of big games as defenses try to shift over and take care of Thailand Wallace? And the question might be this week against Baylor, because this Baylor team, I mean, 2 years ago, OSU goes to Waco early in the season before injuries and some things have started to affect Baylor. They lose, but now later in this season, we sort of see this Baylor team doing what that Baylor team did 2 years ago, just kind of slowly hitting the skids. This is not a good time for Baylor. They seem to have really kind of they're struggling right now, to say the least.
They are. Their defense has not been very good all year, but now the offense has not been productive. Had 17 points on Texas, 7 points on West Virginia. It's a struggle. We saw them do well earlier in the year. They lit up the Sooners to some degree. Played some pretty good offense, but Charlie Brewer's hurt now. This is a prime opportunity for Oklahoma State to take command of a game. Going to be very difficult for Baylor to hold the Cowboys down. I know everybody's wanted a quarterback change all year in Stillwater, but the OSU offense is pretty good. It's one of the upper division offenses in the Big 12. The Oklahoma State defense is the point of worry, and they're going up against an offense that has sort of stalled. So I think it's a great opportunity for these Cowboys to get that 6th win. You know, we thought, are they going to get bowl eligible? They may not get bowl eligible. They're going to get bowl eligible, I think, here about, 62 hours into the month of November.
Well, let's talk about predictions, guys, as we're breaking down Baylor and how Oklahoma State is seeming to hit a little bit of a surge here. Scott, you've got Oklahoma State winning by 10, 38-28 down in Waco.
Yeah, I think that some of the things we've seen from the defense are going to be good, and be able to apply to this week and keep Baylor at bay long enough for the offense to get going and put up the points that they need. I think that we see Oklahoma State finally lock in that 6th win and get themselves solidified for a bowl game, which is important. And then going forward, you've got the opportunity to really start to gain some confidence and add to that if you can get going, with 2 straight wins here and then heading into Bedlam and on a little bit of a roll, feeling better about yourself. All
right, Barry, you've got Oklahoma State winning as well, a little closer, 34-27.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's the potential to win even bigger and easier. But it's never easy on the road. So Cowboys have been a good road team, but I think they can go down there and sort of control the game. They're not going to win 52-10, I don't think, but I do think it's a game they can control, and I think it's a team they can run on. I think they go down there and a solid victory over Baylor.
I've got a 10-point win like Scott, but a little more points. I've got 41-31. And by the way, we only talked about quarterback change in passing in all of this Orange Alert video, so I chalk that up as a positive. So be sure to stay with the best coverage team anywhere at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoma.